Hello and welcome back to the Blue Monday podcast for Don't Turn Off, the fabled season review. We do it every single year, no matter how bad it's been, and it's been bad, but we want you to stick with us for, I think it's going to be a 3-part look back at this season's events. We'll try and keep it light. It's been an unprecedented season for the fact that Ipswich are in the 3rd tier for the first time in forever, coupled with a worldwide global pandemic and an enforced 11th place finish. So what more could you want for your season review? David Diamond is here. David, how is this going to stack up with, we've been doing the podcast now
I don't know, mate. I remember the
5 years. How is this going to stack up?
I remember the very first end of season review we did at your mate's at your mate's recording studio out in Otley. Great lad he was. With me, you, Stat, and GB. Do you remember?
Yep.
GB.
I remember.
And yeah, we finished 7th, and we thought, disappointing, really. You know, we should have really got in the playoffs. I don't know if you finished 7th. That was 15, 16 season.
16.
The Ryan Fraser season. You can do it by low knees, can't you? The Ryan Fraser. Not the Tom Lawrence, the Ryan Fraser. Yeah, and I remember sort of exactly that feeling. But yeah, this will be a bit different, but hey, you know.
Joe Fairs is here.
These are the glory days, this part of the season.
Yeah, we're
going up to the stage where we were thinking 100 points, 100 goals when we
I would like to distance myself from ever saying, and I didn't, 100 points, 100 goals about anything. But
is that because Berry dropped out of the league and you thought?
Yeah, exactly.
We might only get to 99 over 44.
98 points, 98 goals. There you go. But Dave, that's how it was, wasn't it? So Ipswich relegated down, obviously, into League One, a big fish in a small pond. But the season started in inauspicious circumstances, Dave, with Paul Lambert reading the riot act in his pre-match press conference before the first game at Burton, complaining that the transfer market had been slow at this point. Luke Garbutt's in and Thomas Holy in and James Norwood is in, but he still wants Kane Vincent-Young and Will Keane that he's going to get. But what were your feelings on that kind of slightly sour start when we were all optimistic?
I don't know, really. Perhaps he was a bit frustrated that he hadn't got Vincent. No doubt. I assume he was trying to get Vincent Young in for the first game. I assume he was. Joe might know more about that. But I think, to be fair, looking at it, you know, thinking back to those 3 players, they've done reasonably good business. You know, dropping down to League One, we've got a unit of a goalkeeper coming in who can kick the ball 2 lengths of the pitch, which I wouldn't mind at all. Norwood, obviously proven goal scorer, albeit at a lower level. And, you know, Luke Garbutt, who me and you saw play, I think, for Fulham against Town and a few seasons ago.
You love a left foot attacking fullback, don't
absolutely,
you, Dave?
Yeah. So I was sort of quite pleased with that. Whether, you know, it was Lambert trying to just play things down a bit and take the edge, take the pressure off a bit. Because as you say, yes, we should have been a big fish in a small pond, and we're there to be taken down a peg or 2.
So, Joe, a lot of questions answered in the curtain raiser at Burton, i.e. who's going to play, what system are we going to have? Thomas Holley is in goal to make his debut. Will Norris also obviously loaned in. Remember, Luke Chambers suspended. Danasi and Wolfenden, Wilson. Kenlock starts the season. Down skews, Danny Rowe gets to go and Garbutt's playing left wing with Caden Jackson. I'm sure some people didn't expect him to start the season, given all the Alan Judge back and forward. Caden Jackson up front with James Norwood. So looked like, to all intents and purposes, I don't know what system I'm going to play, so let's play 4-4-2 and try and get the best team out I can. Talk to me about this opener, Joe, the team and how things started with Judge on the bench. Garbutt with the only goal at Burton and a decent start.
Yeah, all things considered, I know we'll go on to it over the course of these pods with regards to constant changes of systems and players, but I think in pre-season, like Lambert had always been a guy that wanted one up front, and that's what we'd spent a lot of last season doing. And I think we all thought that was how we were going to go, even through pre-season. But I think that Caden Jackson, especially at Colchester away, really played himself into the team, and sort of Jackson and Norwood were forming a good partnership in pre-season. They were both getting on the score sheet a lot, and I think Lambert just felt he couldn't leave either of those out. And I'd say you saw the team, and I thought, 4-4-2. That's probably Alan Judge hadn't been fit. He'd broken his wrist for Ireland in the summer and hadn't been training properly throughout. I think he first made his appearance at Cambridge in pre-season, and there'd obviously been a lot of speculation for him going to QPR, wasn't there? And we were at that Cambridge pre-season friendly. There were sort of fans were cheering for him to stay and that sort of thing. And the season, like obviously Lambert made his comments, and then the crowd were giving Evans a bit of stick after Lambert's comments in the terraces at Burton. But you sort of saw the team and thought, that's probably about right. You've sort of got a flat back four. You've got Downs and Scouse in the middle, and then Rowe and Garbutt with licence to push on to support the two strikers. And we did play quite well against Burton. We looked good on the counter-attack. They sort of teams would push on to us, and there was a number of occasions where we hit them quite quickly, especially Danny Rowe and Luke Garbutt down the flanks. It was really, you could tell that was something that we were looking to do throughout the season, that counter-attacking style of football. And like I say, got the goal, as is any Ipswich game, sort of clinging on at the end. I think Wolfenden headed one off the line in the
there was a horrible
90th minute, wasn't he?
Goal kick mishap, I remember, or a back pass deflected that just kind of rolled by the post. And I remember it rolling by the post and me go, we're going to get promoted this season. That would 100% have gone in last season,
Yeah, Holy cleared one, didn't it? And it just blocked it there and went wide. But I think that was one. That was a big game for us, because I think there was a nervousness in the fan base. I think people might have been giving it large, but a little bit tongue-in-cheek, and also as maybe a defence mechanism that they were trying to sort of want it to work, and sort of more than hoping it worked. So to come away from a sort of a decent Burton side who were well organised, and I think they'd finished 8th the season before, and you know what you're going to get from a Nigel Clough team. So to come away from that with a win, a clean sheet, and I think everyone was pretty happy with that.
Dave, on we go to the next game, and I remember kind of the Sunderland game, a general sense of excitement with this, because Sunderland are a big team, sunny first home game, big attendance.
Jack Ross.
Jack Ross, look at what you could have won, hey? Again, it's 4-4-2. Dave, Luke Chambers makes his return, and sadly is going to make an error that's going to cost the goal here. But otherwise, as you were, Garbutt scores again for the second consecutive game. Lyndon Gooch gets the equaliser in the second half. Dave, I remember you being quite high on the performance in this one, and bit of a disappointment not to go on and win that, and that could have really laid down a marker.
We outplayed him first half. I thought it was the best I saw us play all season, pretty much. I didn't see many of. I think I only went to Southend away where we played all right, but I thought that was probably the best home, given ultimately the strength. If you're looking at that, the strength of the opposition. I know we turned over teams by a bigger score. Actually, sorry, beat teams. But the first half, we should have been absolutely out of sight. We played really, really well, and I think there was a lot of optimism after that first half. But same old Ipswich, perhaps one up at half time. It should have probably been, honestly, 3 or 4. We were so dominant, and it was just, it's just so Ipswich when it was just a dreadful error from who I don't remember having a particularly bad game, or anyone having a particularly bad game. Just a dreadful error by Luke Chambers. Just gifted them a goal, really. They never looked like scoring. Absolutely not. And they didn't actually look like scoring after that either. It was a weird sort of game. At 1-1, it was as if, I can't really call us pressing on it. Sort of went very negative after that. But yeah, up till then, certainly first half, and even I think beginning up to their goal, which I think was perhaps midway through the second half, we played really, really well. And there was certainly cause for optimism there. And very disappointing to come away with that without a win, at least, crikey, let alone without a win and a few goals.
Joe, off we go to Luton in what Mick McCarthy described as the hardest game of the season, the League Cup first game in terms of ticking that over. And there was I don't know if you guys felt it, there was a bit of a sense of look how we've fallen when we're off to Luton, and you're looking at the Luton team with Izzy Brown and our former loanee James Bree in there.
Yeah.
Shinnie, Elliot Lee, Berry, Bolton. Thinking, when did Luton get better players than us? But there you go. We see the return of the lesser spotted Emir Hughes. Gwion Edwards gets the first appearance of the season. Jordan Roberts, Josh Emmanuel gets a go. Andre Dezelle,
Bailey Clements.
Alan Judge, Bailey Clements. What are your thoughts on us not having as good a players as Luton's reserves do, and how the rotation is stacking up early in the season?
Well, I think that it was especially telling because we'd been to Luton 2 or 3 years before when they were the team well below us in the league. They must have been League 2 at the time, and David McGoldrick scored a couple of goals. Him and Selena, just when they wanted to,
Selena's debut, yeah.
Yeah, they just turned it on when they needed to get us the win against them, and sort of played well. And then you sort of go there again, and you're the underdogs, and sort of lost quite convincingly, really, wasn't it? I think it was it 3-1, was it, in the end? And a couple of bright sparks from sort of Armando Dobra coming on and scoring a goal and looking sharp. But
I knew Joe would put Dobra over Dave.
Get Dobbs in, but there wasn't a game you sort of walked away with a lot of positives. But with regard to the rotation, I do like to try and win cup games, but I'm not going to get onto a manager for rotating a midweek game when you've got Sunderland and Peterborough either side of it. I think that's what you've got to do. That's what those early games of the cup are there for. And
I think you're right.
If you get through them, you get through them, and if you don't, you don't.
Yeah. Dave, off to Peterborough now, and was this kind of the first reality check when I was watching this from afar? I was on holiday at this point, I remember, but when you realise that there are some good players in League One, and some teams have some better players than us. We go 1-0 up early through Norwood. And
then
you
think, oh, here we go.
Yeah. Miss Penn, and then Tony and Isa score. But then again, Dave, my brain going, this is our season when we're the team getting the jammy last-minute equaliser goal from
Chambers from a corner right at the death. Yeah, and ultimately you look at that point, and I don't think Peterborough had a particularly good start, had they? They may have even lost their first couple of games.
I don't
think they had a great start at all, and everybody was looking at their front three and thinking, well, yeah, this is a team that could do something this season. So, yeah, coming away from that, again, slightly disappointing. I think we were 1 up and pretty much in control, and then they equalised, and then you're on the back foot again. So I think Ipswich, who resigned to a defeat there, but no, Chambers popped up. Great stuff, last minute goal, and take away from that. Ultimately, as the game's played out, you could see more and more. Yeah, that wasn't such a bad point. And I think people were saying 2 or 3 games further ahead when the run was continuing on that. Oh yeah, that Peterborough could be a really quite a good point come the end of the season. So it showed good character, which we hadn't perhaps shown for a while, really.
Gwion Edwards retained from the Luton team. This is the first sort of sign that Edwards is sort of going to basically play himself into this team and become a first 11 player. Off we go to the midweek game now. Basically 2 games in the league without a win and a cup defeat. And this is a reality check, Joe, because it's AFC Wimbledon, and you've said through the season that the League One is made up of some teams that are kind of lower Premier League caliber and some teams that are upper non-league, let's just say. And I think AFC Wimbledon would certainly be one of those. They're going to string out across the midfield and, God forbid, take the lead on 41 minutes. And really, the first of the kind of jammy wins, I think, here with Norwood on 81 and then Caden Jackson chasing onto a long ball in the 93rd minute to get the win. What are your recollections of this game, Joe? I'm just looking the formation down is a 4-3-3 with Giselle, El Mazouni and Rowell starting.
This is one of those ones where you see the team and you just think, this is the right team for tonight's game. Chambers
throw the balls in the...
Chambers is dropped, and it's like you don't really need to drop your captain, especially when he's just scored the last-minute equaliser against Peterborough. He's dropped, and then you got a midfield three of Scouse, Dezelle, and Downs, which is fine on paper, but then when you've got a front three of El Mazouni, who can push on, but is a midfielder really, Danny Rowe, who's a winger with very little goal threat, and then Norwood up on his own, it was one of those games where it's just like, you need to make that change. And I think, I say, Dazelle put Norwood through, didn't he? Gave him a sort of really good ball through, but Norwood missed the one-on-one, and then we conceded, and then you needed to get Jackson. I think he came on about the hour mark. You got Jackson on and Norwood up front, and then you actually sort of started trying to batter them and actually get men forward and actually do it. And luckily, the game went on long enough for us to win it, because any points dropped against them at Portman Road would have been a disaster. And
yeah, I don't think it was so much lucky, Ben. I mean, we did, from my recollection of that game, is we did batter them really, but yeah, we left the goals just came late. Well, obviously the last one really late. But yeah, that was a kind of reality check, really.
But an important win nonetheless. Quick plug, you can, our podcast hosts, Acast, now are running a support system where you can support the podcast. If you go onto the Acast app and just hit the support button, you can donate to the podcast. Guys, we've got a few little shout outs here. Anonymous and DJ and Will, Airy, Ed Hawker, Tugsy, who says, informative and funny Dave Rules, and another anonymous there, have all donated money to the podcast. So we thank those guys and give them a big shout out. Obviously, look, we all have jobs, and there's probably too many of us for any one of us to do this in anything more of a hobby, but hopefully we can put your money towards maybe another live show, or towards the pod season ticket, or towards headphones or software or whatever. So we thank you very much. And if you want to support the podcast, now 5 years of doing this, and we're still here, 11th in League One. So just go and hit that support button on the Acast app.
Well, I will accept donations for the previous 4 years retrospectively.
Reparations, yes. Right, moving on to a rather awkward game at Bolton, Dave. Remember, at this point, absolute horror show for Bolton. They're having to put out 16, 17-year-olds. They're losing. There seems to be a unspoken agreement to stop at 5 goals. They seem to be losing 5-0 every week at this point. Off we go to Bolton, Dave. It's a 4-4-2. It's a hat trick it's 2 for Norwood, 2 for Jackson, 1 for Edwards. This one was uncomfortable, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was all right. And again, in typical Ipswich, it was like 0-0 for quite a while. I've got to say, we didn't score early, did we? Then it was like 1-0 for, again, almost, I want to say, up
50,
to the,
yeah.
And you think, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. And then we scored a few in a rush, and it was, in the end, it was fairly, well, obviously comfortable. I think one note from that game, I think it was Vincent Young's league debut anyway. I guess it was his full debut, I think. Yeah, it was a real shit show at Bolton Round. I mean, there was talk, wasn't it? Not many days before, whether the game would actually go ahead, whether they were going to, whether they were going to actually continue and not do a bury. So there's all sorts of uncertainty there. So you go to somewhere like that, and it's a no-win sort of thing. Yeah, you're expected to win 5-0, and we, comfortably, and we ultimately did the job in the end.
And those 5 goals, Joe, for the first time this season, put Ipswich Town top of the league table.
Unbeaten
at this point. 3 wins and 2 draws. The 2 draws coming against a big team in Sunderland and a sort of League One powerhouse, certainly goal scoring wise, in Peterborough. Optimism is high as we come to Shrewsbury at home here at the end of August, and it looks like there's some idea of a system now. Vincent Young starts again, Wolfenden and Chambers. Kenlock still has the left back jersey at this point. No Garber, but Roskew's Downs. Judge is now going to start tongues wagging by being put out on the wing and not staying there for very long.
Just quickly on that point, you mentioned Kenlock. Well, we didn't. Well, not why would we have mentioned it? But Nydam's injury was at Cambridge, wasn't it? Pre-season. I mean, County. Joe, do you think? No, it's Notts County, wasn't it? Yeah. Do you think there was a shout that perhaps he was being sort of pushed for left back this season?
I definitely think he was being pushed for it. It looked like him and Kenlock were going to be the two competing for it. I don't know whether that would have meant Garbutt didn't sign, or whether Garbutt would have just been seen as a winger. I don't know, but there was definitely a push, because even last year in pre-season, Neidham was playing left back a bit. So I do think there was an attempt to get there, and we just got so many bodies as central midfielders in the squad that I think that's, like I say, when you look at sort of pushing ahead here, but when you look to next season, it's like, is that again something that Neidham and Kenlock, are they good enough to compete for that role there?
That was my next question to you, really. Is he likely? Do you know what his fitness sort of timing is at the moment? Is he
I don't
job
know.
running, or is he?
He must be back for it.
He must
now.
be running.
It's a year since it now, isn't it? And I know.
It must be almost.
I know there are bad injuries, but
a nasty one, wasn't it? Ankle and ligament.
There's not many injuries that are much more longer term than that, unless you've had a big setback in it. Is there?
Yeah. So we go into this Shrewsbury game. Again, Norwood and Jackson up front, and short work of Shrewsbury in this one. Jackson, good opener on the break. Norwood with a penalty. Sean Wally by name. Wally by nature gets himself sent off, and probably goal of the season, possibly by Flynn Downs in the second half. Joe, your reflections on a comfortable looking win over Shrewsbury.
Yeah, this was a funny one because we went 2-0 up so early, didn't we? It must have been in the first 15 minutes. 10-15 minutes, and but we didn't really play that well. We just overpowered them with 2 goals. We scored quite quickly, and through the first half, they were playing some nice stuff, but they just had 3 they looked like an NFL offensive line at the back. 3 big centre halves.
Beckles, Ebanks, Landell, and Pierre.
They were huge.
They weren't particularly mobile either, and when Jackson Norwood went at them, they just caused them problems. But after we went 2-0 up, Shrewsbury dominated most of that half, and then Wally got sent off for a stupidity just before half time. Even in the second half, it's hard to tell, because we scored the third and then they had a lot of the ball, whether we were just content to let them have it. And I think there was definitely an element of that. I don't think that was the case in the first half, but it seemed like if they scored, we could probably just turn it on again and try and score another goal. But it was worrying watching their sort of patterns of play, how they looked, how we didn't really get into them. They sort of played between our lines quite easily, and but for a sort of really good midfield performance by probably Excuse and Downs, I think they sort of kept 3 under wraps as best they could. But it was one of those ones where you sort of walk away happy that you've won 3-0, but you scored the 2 goals early, so you sort of expected a better performance than that after being 2-0 up so early. But it was a funny one.
We met up at half time. That was the game we met up at half time, wasn't it? Me and you. And you came out. You said, Dave, I don't get it. I'm not seeing it. I'm just not feeling it. We're awful. I said, we're not awful, Ben. He said, I'm just not seeing it at all. Hindsight.
Well, there you go. If people accuse us of being wise after the event, go and listen to our confused podcast that we made after that one. Yeah, because
it was just your reaction. You were actually shaking your head, saying, "This is no different than last season. This is just." Yeah.
Well, I reflect exactly what Joe said. Yeah, winning games through star power and a front 2 both in form, scoring at the right time, and welcome, Dave. The EFL leasing.com trophy, whatever you want to call it, and it's Tottenham Hotspur Academy visiting Portman Road. We do get a smattering of decent players, and I think I haven't seen his name come up yet. John Nolan, that might be his bow for the season. Norris, Dobra, Hughes, Edwards, Ilmazuna. This is proper Guinevere stuff, Joe, isn't it? Wilson, Danassian, Nolan, Roberts, Wolfenden, Kenlock. Dave, just we've just been talking about 1981 on Twitter. Your reactions to the playing?
Well, first of all, I had a very kind invitation from Joe and went corporately with Joe and had a very nice pie before the game. I seem to remember, which just set
forever.
Absolutely,
Nicky Stockwell,
which absolutely set everything up nicely. I mean, all I remember that night is the second half display. Well, most of the match displayed by Dobra, who was absolutely outstanding. I mean, Joe was obviously raving about him because he'd seen.
You just saying that because Joe bought you a pie, and that was what he wanted to.
That was part of it. But Joe had been raving about him because Joe had been watching him since he was about 12, sort of thing, through the ranks. And And he was absolutely second half. He was absolutely outstanding. Certainly set up the winner. Did he set up both? I think.
Yeah, he set up both goals. Got
Roberts,
right to the byline.
Almost identical from the byline. Was it absolutely brilliant? So two things that night. I came out thinking, what a very enjoyable evening I had, sitting up there and having a nice pie, and also witnessing a absolutely brilliant display from Dobra, and also Hughes. I think getting some minutes under his belt. Although I think we both came away, me and Joe, thinking, my God, he's rusty. Which he
every 10 minutes he plays, you're like, right, money in the bank. He didn't get hurt. He didn't get injured.
Well, that was the only thing. Yeah, I don't think I can't recall him being limped off. I know he got substituted, and everyone was sort of, oh no, Hughes is going off. But both for me, most notable for certainly Dobra's display that night. Bloody hell, he's outstanding.
A fourth straight win, and now we go to Saturday the 7th of September, and we're not going to play, and this is going to cause havoc in the brains of all Ipswich fans all the way through the season, basically, certainly up to Christmas. Joe,
which game was
Rochdale?
That? Rochdale, yeah.
Yeah, so Ipswich are due to play Rochdale, and for a couple of under 21 call-ups, and probably Judge, am I right at that point?
I think it was Judge, Giorgio, Elmazuni, maybe Dobra.
Elmis, yeah.
So anyway, Paul Lambert, for the first time this season, decides to take a break and not play the game against Rochdale. As I say, 4 wins on the trot on that one. So hold that thought in your head as we come to the home game, Joe, against Doncaster. Has been an 11-day rest, and it is a 0-0 draw in this one. Vincent Young in the team at fullback. Edwards and Judge are on the wings. Nolan, Will Keane, is that his first game back? It looks like it. Your thoughts on taking the break and then subsequently not winning after you've taken the break?
I was against taking the breaks all season. I didn't think we were losing enough quality from the team to justify it. We weren't really losing any starters. I think Downs may have been called up, but he was called up to an under-20 game, which you can pull players out of the squad off. They're not the UEFA 21s, 19s and full games where you can't take them out. And it's almost felt like we got Anthony Giorgio in on loan just to help us, like the Sean Fryers of his day, where he used to be the third player in the squad to get games cancelled. But I don't know. I was against it at the time. I still think it was the wrong decision now, especially when you saw how rusty we looked against Doncaster after just while it was an 11-day break, it was really a 2-week break, wasn't it? Because not many of the team had played in the leasing trophy, so we sort of came back with the same team playing 4-4-2, and that was one of those games where I don't know what shape Doncaster played, but they certainly were playing like
4-2-3-1.
4-2-3-1, where they had
they were quite good, more
men in the midfield, and just dominated the ball and dominated the game really without creating a huge amount. Luckily, throughout most of this first part of the season, we were pretty resolute defensively and didn't really concede many chances. We didn't concede many goals at all, but we didn't even concede many chances. We seemed to, as the sort of coming games, MK Dons, Gilliam get a goal and manage to just sort of sit back and not really come under much danger. So we just sort of defended resolutely, but did not look like winning that game. And I think we were probably the side that was happier with a draw come the end of that Doncaster one.
So a draw punctuating 4 straight wins. And Dave, I hate to break this to you, but off we go to Milton Keynes, and your best mate is with me in Wagamama, in the closest Wagamama to any football stadium. So you think he's your best mate, and you're sitting eating a pie with him, and then like a week later he's with me in Wagamama. What is your response to that?
So hang on, you're losing me. Say you're losing me. Losing me.
Joe had Wagamama with me before Milton Keynes. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
That disappoint you?
Really? I don't particularly like Wagamama, to be fair.
Oh, okay. Did you enjoy your Wagamama, Joe?
I did. I especially enjoyed when the bill came and you treated me, Ben.
He did. I didn't make
hang on. That puts a wholly different picture on things. Wait a minute.
There we go.
Nice one.
Yeah. And Dave, in we go to Milton Keynes, and there's an ungodly amount of Ipswich fans there, considering it's hard to get there from Ipswich. And I mean, nice and easy for me in Bedfordshire, I have to say. Absolutely. But it's well over 3,000 Ipswich fans there, completely filling out that filling out that corner. And echoes of the Shrewsbury game again here, because Ipswich play very well for about 15 minutes. Nolan scores a lovely goal.
Yeah.
And Joe, you were there. Would clinging on at the end be fair?
That's sort of what I got. We were clinging on, but we weren't really conceding many chances, were we? I think Holy made one good save with his feet, but whilst they had a lot of the ball, we looked relatively comfortable with it in a way that Ipswich sides haven't done for years and years. I didn't feel like we were going to concede. It just seemed edgy and nervous, but the team didn't really struggle, did they? I think.
Yeah, if they're pumping balls at you, you feel comfortable with that. As if teams are playing through you and getting round you that you're not. That's when you are really clinging on. But if they're just getting the ball wide or even launching them from deep, well, you should be able to cope with that.
My point is that Paul Lambert not appearing to approach this division by saying we are better than these people. We're going to go and win games. Yeah. Rather, okay, well, and I was sat behind him as well, and there was a lot of. I distinctly remember a lot of stop the cross, get out, stop the cross, get out. I could hear him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was more the point, Dave. I think.
Yeah, we're better than that. Should have been better than that.
But this string of 1-0 away wins is about to keep going. So it's how many is that in the league? A fourth win in 5 in the league. And look, spoiler alert, we're going to be top of the league for the entire rest of this.
That's four clean sheets as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Take the cup game out of it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so again, our podcast was saying this is great. We're top of the league. We're winning. Are we playing well yet? Hopefully it'll all click, but we'll take top of the league all day long, I think. Joe, off we go to Gillingham, who spoiler alert, ultimately going to finish below on points per game. Kane Vincent-Young, it's a really good goal actually. But for the first time we see a 3 at the back here. Chambers, Wolfenden and Wilson are the back 3, with Skews and Downs sitting and Dazelle slightly advanced, I guess. Vincent-Young and Edwards at left wing back in this game, with Jackson and Judge up top. Joe, new system, Dazelle in, same result though.
Yeah, this was a case where it worked okay defensively, but going forwards we were pretty blunt in this game, and there was a lot of long balls aimed at Alan Judge's head, which he was trying his best to get to, but him and Jackson had no understanding at all. It was just aimless runs. The goal we scored was a good goal, where, as we sort of want to do at this stage of the season, we just sort of kept possession a little bit aimlessly, but just passing without really getting anywhere, until Dazelle just sort of turned one round the corner and just kicked a move into life, and Vincent-Young come around the back post to score. And again, another one where we scored and then we didn't really concede many chances. I think there was one little scramble from a corner, and we were pretty comfortable for another win. And I think we're sort of closing in on a club record of clean sheets at this point, and without really getting out of second gear.
Such a strange season. And I remember this being the tone of the podcast at the time. It was very much like, what's the first 11? Are Nolan and Hughes going to come into it? Is Dazelle going to get there? Where's Judge supposed to be playing? Who's the best goalkeeper? Is Chambers still right at centre-half? Do we play 2 at the back or 3 at the back? Who are our full-backs?
And I think very much the sort of tone was, well, who really cares? Because we're still winning. We're not conceding goals. Onwards and up. When these players do come back and we do stumble on the full mate or whatever, how it all fits together, we'll walk away with it, won't we?
Fair point, Dave. Fair point indeed. On we go to the Tranmere game, and I think you were all over these stats, Joe. Did we? I don't think we made the clean sheet record, did we?
No, we were about 10 or 15 minutes away from it.
Wow. Tremendous stuff. So, Dave, a big win here over Tranmere, but don't worry, because Tranmere invest money in the middle of the season, always win their last 17 games. So don't worry if you're a Tranmere fan, because it's all going to be okay. Please don't clip that and play that to any Tranmere fans. Tranmere relegated on points per game. Let's not talk about
I don't really recall much about this. Only 2 outstanding goals from Garbutt and Vincent Young, ridiculous one, and a Garbutt ridiculous free kick, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Really
so
good free
Garbutt gives
kick.
us the lead on 35. Payne breaks Joe Fair's heart and all his excellent maths work to equalise just before half time. Jackson, Nolan, and Vincent Young. That was a lovely goal as well, wasn't it?
Oh, look at that. Look at that beauty. Look at that product
Camden
placement.
on Sea Pale Lager.
Look at that product placement.
Sponsors of today's podcast.
If Adams would like to send me some cans, please do.
Send care of J Fairs, Rushmere, near the golf course.
Oh, he's giving it away. But Dave, coasting in, no 1-0 victory here, 4-1. Looking very comfortable.
Mate, it's looking rosy, isn't it? Very, very rosy at this stage. Vincent Young's just like a Cafu and fucking Carlos Alberto rolled into one, isn't he? Unbelievable. Yeah.
And this was one of those games where a team actually tried to come and go at us a little bit, and we just swatted them aside. And it's a bit like, well, if teams aren't going to go at us, we'll nick a goal and we'll just beat them 1-0. And if they're going to come and have a go at us, we're just going to walk all over them. So it was feeling good at this point.
Yeah.
And I think for most people, the next game is kind of the peak of the season, the Everest, because off we go to Fleetwood for yet another 1-0 away win now. And I mean, if you run this back to the Luton game, I mean, that's the only defeat in all competitions. But in the league, literally 1 drawn, 1-1-1 drawn, 1-1-1-1. Yeah, and we're at Fleetwood.
Can we have, at one point have the next best record to Liverpool, didn't we? Virtually, it was us, Liverpool.
Wasn't it?
I think after this game, we were the
only
only 2 unbeaten teams in the league.
That's right, unbeaten.
We had 27 points after 11 games at this stage.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. And Fleetwood that have turned out to be, they'll be in the League One behind closed doors playoffs next week. Turned out to be a decent team with, I mean, Ched Evans is there, Paul Coots, and that huge Suter who had a lovely old time in the return game. All playing in this game. No, oh God, what's the ex-Villa? No Whelan in midfield yet, Dave, who you love. But again, it's a 3 at the back. There's a missed pen in this one for Jackson, but Jackson himself gets the win. A red card for James Wilson at the end. Skews Downs Nolan in midfield, and just so rosy and all going so well. Was this the peak of the season, Dave?
I think, looking at the league games that we've got left to cover, there's only a couple for us to cover in this segment of the review. It was, wasn't it? Yeah,
absolutely.
I think so. Well, yes, it was, because we're coming off that unbeaten run. Obviously, spoiler alert, we did somehow bizarrely hit the top again in January, but it wasn't after a run like this.
No.
But when we went, Fleetwood was second in the league and we were top. And we went
second.
They were second or third at this point. So that was when people say, "Oh, you haven't beaten anyone in the top 6." And it's like, well, we did go away. They were either second or third. Let me just.
Yeah. No, I think.
Yeah. So after this game,
right.
Fleetwood were third.
Yeah.
With 20 points from 11, and Wickham was second with 23 from 12. So
we were like 4 points clear. Yeah.
Yeah. 4 points clear with a game in hand. Seven points clear of third. So Fleetwood were right up there. And we went up there, and again, we beat them. And this was probably one of our more convincing 1-0s of this period, where we actually had Mr. Penn, had some decent chances afterwards. I think Nolan played well and sort of put himself about well. And you sort of looked at the team and thought, well, actually, is this the strongest team now? You've managed to...
This is 3 at the back again, Joe.
Yeah, I think Ken Lock was... He was fine defensively, but he was in a habit of giving away cheap free kicks and was struggling a little bit on the ball. And we'd managed to find a way to get Garbutt and Vincent Young pushed higher up the pitch. Vincent Young obviously got injured, which becomes a defining moment of the season. Yeah. You've got sort of the solid back three, Wolfie, Chambers and Wilson. And then you've got Scouse and Downs, who had been brilliant up until this point in midfield. Downs continued to be throughout the season. John Nolan coming in and getting around the front too. And Jackson Norwood keeping their partnership going. You think, well, maybe this is... I'm not a huge 3-5-2 fan myself, but it did seem like that was something that was working for us. And sort of another spoiler alert, the contrast of the 2 Fleetwood games over the course of the season, the away tie...
Sad.
Yeah.
We go top of the league,
it up, really.
27 points from 11 games, flying. looking like there's no way you can even miss out on anything from here. The reverse fixture, beating 1-0 at home to a chorus of boos, and just didn't even get a look in.
Wow.
Yeah,
we are
good
going to
point.
get a look in because there's another big win coming. A little subplot in this one. Gillingham come back in the EFL trophy, and nice handbags with old pod favourite Steve Evans, who sadly is going to get the last laugh this season, isn't he? But 4-0 here. Hughes, Roberts, an own goal, and a Will Keane goal in this one, Dave. So just everything ticking along. And if I just throw that up in all competitions, and this is the peak of it: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 wins in 10 games.
Ridiculous, yeah. And Hughes, I think Hughes
clean
scored
sheets in that time, is it?
Yeah, Hughes scored,
Wow.
didn't he? And Hughes sort of bossed the game. I remember certainly first half or up to the hour, he absolutely bossed. You think, yeah, when Gillingham didn't offer much. I'm not quite sure the strength of their side that night. To be fair, I'm not sure it was. Yeah, I think they played a much weakened side, I think, but we absolutely bossed. And Hughes bossed the game, which was great, and you could see, oh yeah, okay, here he is, perhaps getting back close to what what he was a couple of seasons before the bad injury. So yeah, that's what you take from that game.
And again, we go to the 12th of October, and who wants to win a quiz prize? Who are we due to play this game that got cancelled?
Wickham.
Oh, okay, yeah, even more prevalent. So yes, Lambert again takes the weekend off, but it's okay because we're on fire and we're going to break the Sky Hoodoo and we're going to break the Sunday Hoodoo as we go off to Accrington, where we'd come a cropper in the FA Cup just 9 months prior. And Dave, it's not good at all, is it? 2 goals from Colby Bishop. Yes. So Toto and Ciala starts the game, but does not finish it. Andre Dazelle again. I know we're kind of Dazelle apologists on the podcast, but seems to get thrown into a situation that didn't appear to
pass him by. Was this not the game? All right, we were 2-0 down. That Wolfen had one about 2 feet over the line.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, and that was. I want to say that was perhaps not that close to the end, like midway through the second half, when you think
60-odd minutes, wasn't it?
And then we have did we have one off the line before they scored? We should have scored. Someone had one off. I'm sure we had one off the line. An absolutely miraculous clearance. I'm sure this was the game before they scored.
Yeah.
I think so. Anyway, certainly Wolfie, you could see evidence the ball was clearly over the line. That was perhaps where we'd been riding our luck in some games, things going with us. I mean, Ben mentioned the ricochet, the very first game at Burton and stuff like that. I think this is where perhaps it started to turn a little bit, but oh dear, totes.
Yeah. Did he just get this wrong, or was the strength in that you look through that team and you've now got Nsiala, Dazelle, Nolan, and Judge playing up front? I think, and I remember as well, Joe, before you come in, I remember as well Bishop targeting Edwards at wing back. They had it figured out that our wing backs weren't going to win anything.
And again, I thought we looked stale, didn't we? We started off slowly. We just looked quite stale, I think.
I think this is one of the problems that I've been sort of going that I'm sure the pod listeners and the board of hearing, but going on and on about that.
Joe, they love it. They absolutely love it. Honestly.
That's what they tune in for, Joe.
But they love this doom shit.
We built a squad looking at, like I say, we'd spent all of the second half of the season of last year when Lambert was there. We'd spent all season playing at a 4-2-3-1 or something along those lines, and we'd built a squad based around 4-2-3-1. We had sort of 2 fit strikers, 3 fit centre backs, and then Wilson suspended, Norwood's injured, obviously Vincent Young is injured, and then Downs is injured. But Downs obviously was a big miss, but not positionally. So because Wilson is injured or suspended, you bring in Toto Nsiala, who is utter rubbish and has been terrible. Was terrible.
Sure.
Yeah, he's not the best. Right wing back, you end up having to play Guion Edwards there because you haven't got another right wing back in the squad.
It was dire, wasn't it?
And then up front, because you've only got 2 strikers in the squad and you're trying to play 2 up front, you end up having to play Alan Judge up front. So we've got this massive squad of senior players, 22, 24, maybe even 26 senior players. and you're playing a formation of 3 at the back where you only have 3 centre backs, 2 up front where you've only got 2 strikers. So you're just any injuries to those positions, and it just screws the whole team up. And it's just a poor case of poor use of the squad. I know I'd said it was only 5 minutes ago I was saying I quite liked how the 3-5-2 looked with how it went, but the problem with the 3-5-2 is that the squad hadn't been built to play 3-5-2. So we only had, like I say, Enciala goes out to Bolton not in January, and it's like you've only got 3 centre backs in the whole squad. You've only got
5 centre backs and 4 wing backs, don't you?
Yeah, you've only got 2 fit strikers because Keane was signed unfit, and we knew Sears was out until December, January. So you've set the squad up to play in a certain way. You've gone to something else, and with no transfer windows, you can't adjust it, and you end up with games like Accrington where, yeah, you're missing 4 key players, or 3.5. You can say Wilson wasn't that key, but you're missing Vincent Young, you're missing Downs, you're missing Norwood, and the quality of player coming in may not be a significant drop off, but they're coming in and playing roles that are so unfamiliar to them that it is a drop off. Leon Edwards coming in as a right winger isn't a massive drop off from Vincent Young as a right back, but Leon Edwards coming in as a right wing back is a huge drop off. Alan Judge coming in for Norwood isn't a big drop off. Alan Judge coming in and playing up front is a huge drop off, and it just, I don't know, you just saw the team on paper and you just thought, oh god, this is not the sort of team you want to go to an Accrington, a place like that,
especially a manager like that. Yeah,
I know it's true in nearly all football games, but especially games like that, you've got to win the battle first. You've got to earn your right to play football, and I don't think we had the players in there that were going to earn that right, because Jackson up front on his own against that Ross Sykes, who's like 6'7", Judge just flittering around where he wants, Edwards getting pulled onto and beaten in the air, Garbutt not the best defensively as it is.
Sykes being 6'7" didn't stop Armando Dobra trying to knock him out, though, did it? Double red card at the end of this game. But Dave, we're still top of the league.
Yep.
Anyone forgives a defeat after you've won 9 out of the last
and we've got
10. But
Rotherham at home coming up midweek will put things right.
Sadly predictable. Just quickly, you two. The 2 games after the international breaks, now 0-0 at home to Doncaster. And 2-0 Accrington, so no goals, 1 point out of 6. Is this caused an effect, or am I barking up the wrong tree?
I think it's significant, absolutely, as Joe said, definitely. And I think the bit that annoyed me most, I think, was a slight spoiler alert. Later on in November, when we play the Wickham game, when we actually get to play the Wickham game, I don't think one of those players that the game was originally postponed for, let alone made the team. I'm not sure even they were in the squad. Maybe one.
And I think, like, one of the things that frustrated me is that
maybe you've judged.
You've had 2 weeks to work on something against Accrington, and you go into that game playing Alan Judge as a second striker, Leon Edwards as a wing back,
without Downs, without Norwood.
You had long enough to work on something for that game, which we didn't seem to have done,
and bullied out of it really.
On we go to this Rotherham game then, and the strange thing is that Rotherham are going to end up on the points per game being crowned champions, but at this point they hadn't really got going yet. They didn't start well. We're obviously still top of the league, but Dave, to Joe's point, Paul Lambert does seem to agree with him and tries a pretty strange system that completely falls flat. It's not a 4-4-2 diamond really, because there's no number 10, but I mean, it's a back 4. You've got Vincent Young, Chambers, Wilson, now Garbutt as an orthodox left back. You've got Skews sitting, and then Nolan, Hughes, and Rowe. But so there's kind of one winger in there and 2 centre midfielders, and they're
very muddled, wasn't it?
In a tight midfield.
We never got a grip of this game at all. And again,
Will Keane and Caden Jackson up front as well, Dave. A new partnership there. So completely rips it up and tries again. Sorry, go ahead.
Again, I thought, in this game they completely dominated the ball. They completely dominated the midfield. They had the unit in midfield. Sorry,
Matt Crooks.
Yeah, Crooks. That's it. Who scored both goals. We were just off it in this game, and I thought completely dominated this game. And this game again, on the back of the Accrington game, you come away from this game and you think, right, okay. And I think you'd start to realise that Well, no, there was hope because I think Vincent Young at that stage, it was only going to be a sort of 2 or 3. Well, I think he'd had a minor rot.
He played in that game, didn't he?
He did.
Yes,
did he play? Yes, he did. Sorry, he didn't
look
play
right,
in this game.
Dave. He didn't look right.
He didn't look right at all. That's right. He did. He didn't look right. That was for me
and
big doubt.
I think the also I know it sort of like we were saying for the Accrington game where Wolfie's goal is disallowed. This time you sort of come straight after the break, 1-0 down at half time, you can take that, and within a minute or two of the restart they score again, and it's just like that's game over. Goals are so big.
Jared Bowen doing that.
No, it's obvious. Goals are so big in games,
it?
aren't they? And they change the game so much, and 1-0 coming out after half time, when it goes 2-0 against a team like that, it's game over in the same way that had Wolfie got one back with 25 minutes to get Accrington at 2-1, then
slightly different.
Changes it, doesn't it?
We were just dominated this game, completely outplayed.
We're going to set our friends up for the next part of the podcast. Just to say, Thomas Holy, first goal between his legs, and we're going to get. We'll let them do this narrative of the season, but we're going to start to get goalkeeper duets basically.
So is the next game Southend away? Is that the next game?
It is.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But gentlemen, that is where we are going to end our portion of this season review. And I would love to give you the league table on close of play, 23rd of October, 2019. Sixth place, Oxford, 22 points from 14. Fleetwood in fifth, 23 from 13. Coventry going to end up getting promoted, 24 from 14. Wickham up there in third. Of course, they're never going to manage to stay up there all season, as we said the whole time. 27. Ipswich dropped to second after their long run after this game on 27 points. League leaders at this point, Peterborough United, 8 wins and 27 points. Ipswich, 9 goals conceded in the first 13 games. Staggeringly good.
4 of them had been in the last 2
games. Yeah. My God.
And to that point, in those, if you wound that back 2 games, it's 8 wins, 3 draws, and 21 goals for, and 7 against. 5 against.
5.
Sorry, 5 against. Right, Dave, sum up to that, Rotherham. I know there's a lot of moving parts here, and that's essentially why the finish is going to end up where it is, but without stealing the thunder of the other guys who are doing the next shows.
Yeah, I think that summary.
You give your
summary. I think doubts had started to creep in. I think we were sort of halted in our tracks somewhat, weren't we? Say Accrington. I think you can put we're a bit stale. 2 very big individual errors, a sending off. Probably a perfectly good goal chalked off to we could get back into it. This one for me was a big jolt. We were completely dominated, outplayed. Tactically, I think he got it completely wrong. You walk away from this one thinking, but then knowing what our next game was, spoiler alert, which is spoken about it, who were really, really struggling. That was almost like a free hit, and almost you'd certainly think you're going to get 3 points from that. But certainly for me, doubts were cast after that Rotherham game. Joe?
Yeah, I think at the start of the season, I'm sure most Ipswich fans would have said, look, we want to get in the top 6. That's our aim for the season. I know people said no, only top 2, but realistically, we were the worst team in the Championship for a number of years. We had a decent looking squad, but I think there was a case that sort of top 6, because it takes a long time to turn around a team that has been losing games consistently week in, week out. And whilst we weren't playing great at times, I was really happy with obviously winning every week. I think that was key. And you sort of look at the table and you think we're giving ourselves such a solid base to build the season from, that even if we do have a blip, which is going to happen, we're getting so far ahead of the pack here at the moment that it's not going to happen. But so I had the concerns about how we were playing, but it was more that sort of last 2 games going into it, where Accrington game, it was sort of 5 changes. And then after the into the Doncaster game, it was like another 4 or 5 changes. And I'd hope Lambert had learned his lesson from that AFC Wimbledon game, where we'd sort of rested Chambers, we'd rested Norwood, and it's like you can't rest those two players because they're key players, and and all of a sudden it's like Wolfie's on the bench for that game, for the Rotherham game, because Wilson's back and Enciala's dropped straight out of the squad and Giselle dropped straight out of the squad, and you're getting into that players coming in, dropping out, coming in, dropping out, and it just didn't seem. Like I say, we'd built a base on a pretty solid 4-4-2. It evolved into a 3-5-2. But if you don't have the players for it, then you need to go back to it. And it seemed we were trying to fit Alan Judge into the team a little bit, and he wasn't really performing. And I don't know, there were those concerns that it was sort of, we've got this amazing base to build from, but we aren't really taking advantage of it.
Yeah. Also, I think, with hindsight, and hindsight's easy, but the Vincent Young situation, we said how he played and struggled. I can remember him now struggling against Rotherham. He was obviously rushed back too early, and we all know what happened as from the next game. So I think that was a bit of a factor as well there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, guys. We've gone back pre-pandemic to the halcyon days, but were they ever that halcyon? I know people have said on Twitter, oh, no one was saying this when we were winning every week. Well, I would invite you to go back and listen to our podcast, particularly Dave, that Shrewsbury one that we did, asking a lot of questions. And Joe's been on it with the balance of squad for probably 18 months now, hasn't he? So we're not trying to be wise after the event with this.
I think it was Stat that after the Fleetwood away game said he thought we could probably be European champions within 3 seasons. No, it wasn't, was it? That was a joke. That was a joke, Stat. That was.
He won't be listening. He's not on it.
Speaking of Stat, I believe I'm going to get this totally wrong now. It's Mikey, Craig, and Stat possibly this midweek, and that would mean Richard, Seb, and a special guest all will be revealed.
I saw the special guest.
I've probably got that the wrong way around, but there will be 2 more of these. Just quickly, we often get some pretty unkind and blunt comments when we do the season review. We're an Ipswich Town podcast. We cover Ipswich Town. Every year we do a season review. If you've checked out for the season, that's fine. Don't listen, but we're not responsible for the results of the team, and we do get snarky messages sometimes when we do these. So please understand that we're just here to cover the football team, and any podcast worth its salt will do a season review. That's what we're doing. If you're waiting until next season to check back in, or wait until we're in the Championship to check back in, then fine, but just put yourself in our position before. Well, in fact, in all times when you bring your phone out to tweet something, just have a little think before you tweet. Think, am I being a bit of a one here? And we're just
only
doing our
giving the
best.
people what they want.
Well, I'd like to hope so after 5 years, Joe. But yeah, so this will be the first of a 3-part season review. We are so happy to check back in. Weird time for you, weird time for us. Obviously, we've done the player interviews with Pablo Cunyago, Dave, and Tommy Miller. 2 excellent jobs there. The epic Jim Majilton one, and Mikey with Matt Holland as well. So it's been an interesting time for the pod. We tried to keep things going, but we're dipping back in now, and hopefully, from what we've heard today, we're only a couple of months from the next season started, and then you can get your normal podcasts. Joe, last word from you, please.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, it's what we want.
Dave, last word from you.
Got nothing to add. Nothing to add to it. Nothing.
Joe said, give the people what they want, Dave. So please give the people what they want.
Crap.